Today's dedication is for Terax, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Mishra Eminent 1 versus Nekusar, Yarok and Torbran. Yeah, I've got a half decent start there, so we'll try it. A Goblin Engineer for turn 2 sounds alright. There's more shenanigans for us to do with Dockside Extortionist. If we get a lot of treasures off this, we can trade out the treasures for other artifacts with this, and yeah, Goblin Engineer helps in that regard as well. Does rely on our opponent getting out artifacts and enchantments though, so we'll just lead with a mountain and pass. Expedition map from the mono red player. Alright, seen some artifacts this turn, a charcoal diamond as well as the expedition map. Up against a Grixis and a mono red player, so it's likely we'll see a decent number of artifacts for this dockside. Okay, drawing to Dragon Skull Summit. Don't have any blue mana yet, but we can obviously get that from the treasures. Let's go for the Goblin Engineer, hold off on the Ancient Tomb for as long as possible. Obviously going to look at putting a big artifact into the bin here so that we can cheat it out. Something like Spine of Isar maybe. Although Brooderclad sounds like fun. Yeah, let's get down the Brooderclad, or throw that into the bin ready to reanimate at some point. Now another artifact coming in, an Arcane Signet. Dream Cache from the Nekusar. Okay, drawing into a Soul Ring, not wanting to trade that out for anything in particular, but we can throw the Soul Ring and the Audacious Reshapers into play this turn. Get the Summoning Sickness away from this thing. We'll hold up the Goblin Engineer just in case. And I'm actually only just realising my error here. Haven't played with Goblin Engineer much since it released. Return a target artifact with mana value 3 or less from graveyard to battlefield, so we'll have to reanimate the Brooderclad via other means, unfortunately. Torbran Thane of Red fell into play, keeping those 2 artifacts for us. Mana Crypt for Yarok now. And there's a reality shift, getting rid of our Audacious Reshapers straight away. Seems like a very aggressive reality shift, but I mean, I had high hopes for that thing. I haven't ever used it before, so we'll have to try again during another game. Now a Grave Lighter. Creature hasn't died this turn, so yeah, we're going to have to sacrifice a creature instead. What did we manifest? That was a Mana Crypt. So putting that in the bin's probably a good idea. Ready for the Goblin Engineer to whip out. Obviously it deals with the Torbran as well. Yarok already doing annoying stuff. Ironcrag Pyromancer. So that will be able to deal with the Goblin Engineer. Might be able to cantrip here with a Ponder or something. Not drawing an additional card during their turn though. There is an Emry, Lurker of the Loch, which we can't do anything with because our colours are screwed at the moment, so might have to be a Dockside Extortionist just so we can get some blue mana here. So let's go for that. Not the best Dockside anyone's ever had. Comes down, we'll get 4 treasure tokens. That allows us into Mishra Eminent 1. And then we can go after the Mana Crypt. I think we're really playing into a board wipe here, but get the Mana Crypt out, sacrifice a treasure token, and then we'll let that floating mana go. The Mishra is going to make a treasure token for 4 for us, which we're not going to swing in with. We don't have Vigilance on that, unfortunately. Not likely in Grixis that we're going to get Vigilance onto it. So sacrifice that for blue, and then we'll get down the Emry. Emry going to mill some cards for us, and we'll start being able to play artifacts. There we go, we've got plenty of artifacts there now. A Solemn Simulacrum, a Vault of Whispers, Horde Hauler, and an Ethereum Sculptor. Expedition map being cracked by the Torbran finally. Should probably go for something like Valakut here. Start threatening that. No, instead going for the Urza's Saga, so playing that out straight away. Then it is Sword of Fire and Ice after that. Noteworthy that the Sword of Fire and Ice isn't red, so it will still only shock an opponent, or any target will only ever deal 2 damage. Yarok the Desecrated into play. And then a colourless bounce land in Guildless Commons. So they had to bounce 2 lands back to hand there in order to do that, because the bounce lands will trigger twice thanks to the Yarok, so not sure if that's intended. Maybe there's a bit of a landfall sub-theme. Now we just have to hope that our opponent can't deal with the Emry, or the Mishra, or the Goblin Engineer. We stand to have a half decent turn next turn if we can actually keep our stuff in play. There's an Archmage Ascension, so it doesn't look like they're drawing an additional card this turn for a Lightning Bolt. Alright, so managing to make it round to our turn again. Just hope that there's still no interaction from anybody. They're all pretty much tapped out. Alright, gets us into a Verdant Catacombs this turn off the draw step, so we can fix our blue mana finally. Then let's tap down the Emery. We will target the Horde Hauler so that we can start making more treasures. So Horde Hauler comes into play. Can't give this haste unfortunately, otherwise we could swing in with this and a copy of it. So we'll just have to let the floating mana down. Mishra going to make a copy of the vehicle, so that will become a 4/4 creature with haste, or it'll make a token copy that's a 4/4 with haste, I should say. So there we are, we can swing in with this one obviously because it is a creature. So we can make 2 treasures by swinging in at the Torbran player. We'll swing Mishra in at the Grixis player as well, just to show we're not bullying just one player. So then the Horde Hauler triggers, we get a treasure token per artifact they control, which is only 2 at the moment. And then before we have to sacrifice this token, I will sacrifice it instead to the Goblin Engineer. Let's make a land, another one with Vault of Whispers. And we're still holding up the Masterful Replication. We can turn all of our tokens, treasure tokens, we don't have that many of them at the moment, but we can turn all of our treasure tokens into Horde Haulers if we wanted to. Not sure that would really do too much good for us. Be good to get this Brooderclad out, maybe next turn. And there we see a Dockside Extortionist for Torbran, so yeah, that's a much better one. Although our Dockside Extortionist did get us into this game, we would have been way far behind by now if we hadn't gone for it when we did. And we've got way more artifacts now, so if we can get through with our Horde Hauler, then we can stand to make as many treasures as they can keep hold of. Hopefully going for a big non-creature spell here. Emrakul, the Promised End, of course. And they're gaining control of the Yarok during their next turn. Never thought I'd see an Emrakul in a Torbran list. There's a Maze of Ith as well, just to make it even more difficult to swing in over there. I mean, they don't have anywhere near as many artifacts now anyway. Time of Need from Yarok. Obviously this is Torbran playing these spells, so I'm going to make them look for a bad legendary, I imagine. Then playing out a swamp, they searched... Oh, I think they failed to find there. It says, search your library for a legendary creature, put it into hand, then shuffle. So, yeah, I don't know. They must have failed to find there because there's nothing in the revealed zone. Now Infernal Grass going on to that thing. I'm actually scared of that as well. So, yeah, I'm happy that that's not being pointed at any of our stuff. The Yarok now swinging in at us. We will just take the damage, I think. We don't have any reanimation in this deck. We do have a Phyrexian Metamorph to potentially copy the Dockside with though, so yeah, we'll just take the commander damage. More useful to us in play than it is in the graveyard. Alright, Yarok gets an actual turn now, so playing out a Temple of Malady. And Yarok just passing through the turn after that. Thought it was kind that the that the Emrakul played out a swamp for him. Just holding up the 4 cards in hand though. Obnixilis reignited now. You have to assume that they're going to point the removal from Obnixilis at the Emrakul, so we'll allow it into play and hope they don't point anything at us. Minusing down and destroying the Emrakul is excellent. Alright, a Myriad Landscape for us, so some slow ramp, but is ramp nonetheless. Emery will allow us to play out the Brooderclad this turn, I think. Alright, so we'll have to make sure to put triggers on the stack correctly here. Let's go through to the beginning of combat phase. Brooderclad goes on the stack first. Then Mishra points at the Horde Hauler. A copy is made of the Horde Hauler. Then let's crew the original Horde Hauler here, because that'll swing in and finish off this Obnixilis. And then Brooderclad will trigger. It will make a 2/1 Phyrexian Mere. And then we choose a token we control, which is the Mishra's War Form. And so we get a bunch of Mishra's War Forms. That includes the treasures have turned into these as well, so get a bunch of those into play here. So let's continue to land commander damage over here. Where's the original gone? That's the original Horde Hauler, so that can swing in at the Obnixilis. And then we can have all these tokens go in at the mono red player because there's more artifacts over there. Might get punished for swinging in with so much stuff over there. They do have protection from red, which is noteworthy. Okay, so Maze of Ith untaps one of them, that's fine. Not blocking with the Dockside Extortionist is curious, so I'm guessing they are quite eager to swing in with this next turn. So that lands us 4 triggers with Horde Haulers, which means we get 8 treasure tokens here. Alright, now this is the one that we have to sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step, so we can trade that out for the Ethereum Sculptor, I think. Got the Torbran player down to 20, 10 commander damage on the Grixis player. Go for Goblin Engineer. Alright, so ending the turn with 8 treasure tokens, and still holding up the same cards. Fierce Guardianship and Masterful Replication might make this Golem tokens, and then we can block the Dockside Extortionist, assuming it swings in towards us. Although we could block with this as well. We'll see. Noteworthy that we do keep all of these, it's just the one from the original Mishra that we have to sacrifice. And okay, going to make an artifact creature token by the looks of it before this is sacrificed. No doubt we traded out for some fast mana. No, not making a construct, just deciding to float the mana before sacrificing it. They did trade it out for a Sol Ring, as is pretty typical with Urza's Saga. Now it is Lelia, the Blade Reforged. That'll be some nice card advantage for them, potentially. Sword of Fire and Ice equipped onto there. I mean, they're wide open over here, so they might just swing in that direction instead. We really would love to see the Emery survive another turn cycle, because if I can manage to get the Solemn Simulacrum into play, we could play around a board wipe then by using the Masterful Replication to turn all of our artifacts into Solemn Simulacrums. They all get blown up, and then, yeah, we draw a load of cards from each Solemn that dies. A Shadow Spear now. Fierce Guardianship isn't necessarily... Nah, that's not a very flashy counter spell onto there, but I think they're vying to swing in towards us. So, yeah, we'll counter that. I don't feel good about it, though. It's not worth losing our entire board in order to try and keep the Emery in play. If someone goes for a Damnation or something, then I'll wish I kept the Fierce Guardianship. So we'll allow the Shadow Spear into play here. Okay, they don't look like they're equipping it anyway, luckily. Our Emery is still at risk here, though. Swinging in at us. So exiling a card off the top. And it is a mountain that they've exiled, so obviously not too worried about that. Yeah, they've got no cards in hand. I can't think why they didn't equip the Shadow Spear there. So go through to blocks. Oh, it's protection from blue as well. Of course it is. I've just been thinking that it's got protection from red and totally forgot about the protection from blue for some reason. Alright, so could have got down some golems there. We might still lose our Emery in this case. Not equipping the Shadow Spear because they didn't need to. So Sword of Fire and Ice going on to, yeah, the Emery. So we could do with another means of getting the Solemn out of the bin. I mean, the Solemn wouldn't have been as useful if we couldn't turn everything into a copy of Solemn anyway with the Masterful Replication, so... And we're always going to have this hit us unless we use this to get some colourless creatures into place, so... Yeah, we were never really going to win that little battle. Emery's done a lot of work for us this game. Still worth holding on to the Fierce Guardianship, I think. Just passing with one card in hand, still not equipping the Shadow Spear for whatever reason. So maybe they've got a means of doing something at instant speed. Okay, a Ravenous Chupacabra, so probably goes on the Mishra, I would have thought. Maybe the Bruderclad. A lot safer to go after the Bruderclad now that Emery's gone down. They do get double triggers, actually, forgot about that on the Yarok, so... Alright, getting rid of that. I think the damage is done with this, really, so not too worried about that. And, yep, getting rid of the Bruderclad. Now a Vandal Blast. Now you can see why I kept hold of the Fierce Guardianship. Cast without paying the mana cost. We do not want to see a Vandal Blast. This assumes that the Yarok doesn't interfere with us here, wants to keep his mana crypt, and maybe doesn't even have counter magic in hand. So it's definitely worth losing some of our permanents in order to keep our entire board in play. But yeah, Yarok getting rid of the Bruderclad is helping keep some players alive here. Okay, a Mirrodin Besieged. We not really playing many artifacts. I mean, missing card draw really this game, unfortunately. I think just pulling the trigger on the Masterful Replication and turning all of our artifacts into the Mishra's Warforms would be a good idea. Oh, and that's, yeah, that's an instant speed scoop. That could change the outcome of this game. I was actually debating whether or not to take out this player or this one. That has really funneled me towards the Torbran. And yeah, that's not good playing like that. We do have to... Try and tap down all of my artifacts here, including the land. Let's go Masterful Replication. Choose an artifact you control. Each other artifact becomes a copy of it. So we'll just choose this one. Alright, now we've got a bunch of Mishra's war forms. And yeah, we'll just turn sideways, try and take someone out here. Right, I'm just going to swing in enough creatures for them to block with the dockside and remove a creature with Maze of Ith. And then the rest of the creatures should take them out exactly by 20. So that means that these creatures, might as well swing in the Mishra at the red player as well. That means these creatures can swing in towards the Yarok instead. So hopefully I've worked that out right. Can be a little bit clunky on Magic Online to see exactly where you're attacking. Ravenous Chupacabra being thrown under one of them, and they will kill off one of our vehicles there as well with the Yarok. Thanks to Death Touch, they'll gain a little bit of life from it as well. So the Yarok player can still survive. They could go for some kind of board wipe or something, and then we're pretty much screwed because, like I said, we're not really getting into all that many means of card draw. I think they're removing a vehicle that's attacking Yarok there because they see that they're down anyway. Alright, so managing to take this player down to -13. Yarok goes down to 20, so we did deal a half decent amount of damage there. Big thank you to the Torbran player for actually playing that out. Was a good sport about it there. Not sure if these Horde Haulers would have actually worked if he'd quit early. I think you do still get the damage and attack triggers on Magic Online now. Or maybe not. Thought we should have more treasures than that, but anyway, I don't think it matters. Don't see that there's much point of getting down the Mirrodin Besieged here until we can start playing artifacts into that, so we'll just pass the turn here and pray that our opponent doesn't wipe the board. Okay, Palaka Worm going to gain 14 life here, so our opponent can absolutely pull back from this here. We'll get some blue mana out with the Myriad Landscape. Alright, continuing to pray for something good here. We've both got mana crypts in place, so we risk getting lightning bolted every turn. We do get bolted, go down to 21. Okay, Skull Clamp, that's pretty good. We do actually sacrifice the creatures with Mishra every turn. So we've got a couple of 2 toughness creatures, unfortunately. No, actually, goofed up there. Totally forgot about the Mirrodin Besieged. Could have had a 1/1 Mir off the Skull Clamp. And missing out on some card draw there, stupidly. Alright, well, we'll just throw this on one of the tokens. Mishra going to make another copy of the Horde Hauler. We'll just attack him with the creature that's going to get sacrificed anyway, as well as the Skull Clamp. They obviously block the one and gain a bit of life. We don't really do that much damage to them here, a couple of damage because of the lifelink, but they're going to block and kill the one that is going to get sacrificed anyway. So, yeah, maybe shouldn't have attacked in at all, actually. This is a pretty terrible turn from me. Well, we got to make a treasure at least, but yeah. Totally goofed up that turn, gave my opponent a free turn effectively. What I should have done is just not attacked at all and let the token be sacrificed with the Skull Clamp on it. So, giving our opponent another turn to do something. Retreat to Hagra. So, they do have a little bit of landfall stuff in here. Should have re-equipped the Skull Clamp onto a Mishra or the Dockside or something as well. They drop a land, so Retreat to Hagra going to trigger a couple of times. And they go for the drain on that. Okay, so hopefully the Heart of the Cards is going to give me another opportunity here. Hoping that we get into an artifact to cast into that Mirrodin Besieged after my blunder last turn. Nope, just a land. So let's play and crack the land. We'll get the Tricycle land in. The more lands that we have in play, the less we're likely to draw into them. I suppose we could keep the Xander's Lounge so that we can cycle it at some point, so we'll just get another blue source in the Volcanic Island. The Mishra going to trigger again. Make a copy of the Horde Hauler again, and this time I'm not going to swing in with it. I will swing in with the one that has the Skull Clamp from last turn though, because it's likely that they'll just let it through anyway, so we can slowly chip them down while they're not wanting us to benefit from the Skull Clamp. Yep, so they just let that through. So we get another treasure token like we need them. Then it is Skull Clamp. This is what I should have done last turn. Put that onto the vehicle that is going to get sacrificed at the end of the turn. Okay, managing to clear some stuff off the top. A Marsh Flats. We get a Sundial of the Infinite, so if we don't want to sacrifice our artifacts here, then we don't have to with the Sundial in play. That is of course an artifact to play into the Mirrodin Besiege, so hopefully we won't be punished for going so slow here, and we can actually draw some cards next turn. Draining us again thanks to the landfall. Only 2 cards left in hand over there, so I'm hoping that they're not holding up a Cyclonic Rift or something. Alright, Palaka Worm, we're gonna have to block here, so we'll just throw the Ethereum Sculptor underneath that. Oh, it's got Trample actually, so yeah, maybe should have been more aggressive with the blocks. Can you tell it's late at night and making mistakes all over the place? So, go down to 11, and let's try and actually do something this turn. Okay, into another artifact, the Eco Wellspring, and that can draw us a card as well with the Mishra. So, let's get down the Eco Wellspring first of all. Oh my god, have I really just done it again? Jesus. Right, okay. Let's get down the Mirrodin Besieged. I just saw draw a card on that thing and just played it immediately. Okay, Mountain. Throw out the Mountain. Play the Mirrodin Besieged before I make any more mistakes on that. We obviously go Mirren with that, so now we can play the Sundial of the Infinite. Make a 1/1 colourless Mirror. Skull Clamp onto the Mirror token, and just hope that we can draw into another artifact here. Okay, a Duretti Scrap Savant can bring back the Brooderclad, so that's the plan here, methinks. Got into the Goblin Welder as well, so we can play that out if the Duretti doesn't work here. This all depends on our opponent not having an answer for us, which obviously they might. So, Brooderclad into play. Sacrifice an Eco Wellspring in order to do that, which draws us a card. Okay, into an Ether Spell Bomb, so we need to do that now. Yeah, I'm dubious of my opponent not having anything, so let's just go through to combat here. Brooderclad on the stack first, so that Mishra can first make a token copy of something. We'll just make the Horde Haulers again. Alright, and our opponent scoops there, so they didn't have anything. All we were going to do is a repeat of what we were doing previously. Make another copy of the Horde Hauler, and then all the treasure tokens and the mirror that the Brooderclad brings out turn into Horde Haulers, and we swing in with a bunch of trampling 4/4s basically. Could have bounced the Yarok out of the way, but I think we would have had enough damage on them there to take them out, so really sketchy one, especially in the last turn or two there. Could have drawn a lot more cards with that Skull Clamp. Yeah, and was struggling with haste there, but could have had an Arkham Dagson. Spine of Isar, obviously really good to get into, especially when you can make a token copy of that and then turn all the copies into Spine of Isars, and then you get stuff back into hand, and it all goes a bit crazy after that. Yeah, that is my first game with Mishra Eminent 1, and yeah, it turned out pretty well, I think, apart from the whole card draw shenanigans. But I'll have to play a few more times to see if the deck needs any more card draw in it. You can have a look over the list in the description below if you would like. Try and work that out yourself. Please leave the video a thumbs up to help with YouTube's algorithm if you did enjoy the video. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.